Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the School District of Springfield Township Board of School Directors regular board meeting. Today is January 20th, 2015. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reading of the mission statement. Mr. Lapidus.
My pleasure. The mission of the School District of Springfield Township is to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens who are high-achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Sales. Here. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Ray. Mr. Richardson. Here. Ms. Sarsfield. Here. Ms. Schultz. Here. Dr. Paracuski. Here. Mr. Taylor. Here. Mr. Christie.
Here. Announcements. The board, at its discretion, may videotape all or any portion of public board meetings, subject to the limitations set forth in Policy 006.2, Broadcasting of Meetings. Board meetings will be broadcast on Friday afternoon following the board meeting. Public comments on agenda items. Approval of minutes. November 3rd, 2014, interim meeting, interim board minutes G. November 18th, 2014, regular meeting, board minutes H. December 2nd, 2014, reorganization meeting, board minutes I. December 2nd, 2014, regular meeting, board minutes J. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Sales. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Mr. Richardson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Ms. Schultz. Aye. Dr. Paracuski. Aye. Mr. Taylor. Aye. Mr. Christie.
Aye. Approval of Treasurer's Report. Treasurer's Report E from November 2014. Treasurer's Report F from December 2014. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Sales. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Mr. Richardson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Ms. Schultz. Aye. Dr. Paracuski. Aye. Mr. Taylor. Aye. Mr. Christie.
Aye. Reports and information. District PTA report. Karen Beery Roberts.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening. Our last PTA meeting was Monday, January 12th. Dr. Rittenhouse and Mrs. Davis were the guest speakers. They both spoke of the many activities going on at the high school and middle school. The PTA chairperson for the 6th grade activities committee reported that they had their holiday breakfast. It was attended by students and parents, at which the students performed some songs during the breakfast. The 8th grade activity committee is preparing events for the middle school graduating class of 2015. Mary Jean DiCarlo has joined the secondary PTA as co-president. Mr. Chris DeMarilis has resigned as a co-treasurer, and we hope to find someone to fill that vacancy. And I'm also supposed to report for the elementary PTA, but I did not get an email response for them, so I'm sorry I'm not able to update you on their activities. That's it. Thank you.
Reports of committees. Finance Committee.
Thank you. Given that Mr. Rayer threw this on me at the last minute, my memory is very short. So I know that at the last meeting, we discussed the owner's budget that I guess we'll have to make some hard choices on, and Dr. Hacker will go over it briefly shortly. and a refunding, possible refunding on, what years was that?
2009 double A and 2010.
Thank you. Those two bonds, which should save us some substantial money. The meeting from 2014 December, Mr. King, I'm hoping you have
12, 15. We discussed the preliminary issues surrounding the refi, but the major event was the presentation of the audit. It was a clean audit, also known as unmodified.
Thank you.
The Property Committee report tonight will be given by James Taylor, who is now the Chair of the Property Committee, and he has offered to give the report, so thank you, James.
Welcome. Good evening, everybody. The Property Committee met on Friday, December the 19th at 8 a.m. We discussed the Erdenheim cafeteria expansion, which we had 3 different architectural firms come in and give presentations and recommendations. They each had 30-minute in the presentations. Those were Gilbert Architects, CBCA Architect, or KBCA Architects, and the Schrader Group, and of which tonight you will see Gilbert's presentation, who we selected. We also had a district-wide feasibility study that we talked about, and that study will provide a comprehensive plan that relates to the facilities, infrastructure with the educational needs of the district in mind. The plan will include existing condition survey, report preparation and cost estimates of facility improvements, reconstruction and repair recommendations. An RFP will be issued this month, January 2015, and we expect to receive some responses. Presentations of proposals and interviews will be in February of 2015. We expect school board approval by March 17th of 2015, and a completion and submission of the study by July 1st, 2015. We also talked about long-term capital improvement projects, discussing the 2015 summer projects. And we also discussed the removal of the bus canopies at the Antonelli School, which are the ones that are out front of the building. We also discussed the impact thrift store. The district was asked to host a collection bin in front of the high school or another location in the district, but the committee was not in favor of hosting that bin at this time. That's it for the report. Thank you.
I have a couple questions, James. With respect to the timing of the completion and submission of the study, you said it's anticipated July 1st. Does that mean that if the board approves the project to go forward, does that mean that construction is going to occur during the school year?
That was something we still had to discuss at the time.
It's not for construction. This is for a district-wide feasibility study of all of our grounds, all of our buildings in the district, including the Antonelli property or the Penn Manor property, and it's to determine the age of our facilities, the infrastructure capabilities of our facilities, so that we know moving forward we can develop long-range plans which are taking that as well as our burgeoning enrollment into account.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought the submission was... With respect to the bin for impact thrift store, could you tell me why the board, why the property committee declined to approve that?
This discussion, we talked about the school district already had a lot of involvement with the thrift store in the schools with different groups, and with the bin that they were asking for, we couldn't find a place there it would be placed within the district. It may not have impacted some traffic. We were worried about if people were just dropping off stuff there, like we've seen with some other, the Goodwill bins around even the township. So that was the main concern. So since we already have a lot of involvement with the group, we just decided to decline on the bins at this time.
Does anyone else have any questions? Thanks, James. Architect presentation, Gilbert Architects.
Thank you. As Mr. Taylor mentioned at the last property committee, we had presentations by 3 companies who are well known in the area for school architecture projects, and the committee felt very strongly at the conclusion of those presentations that Gilbert Architects could really step up to the plate in terms of helping us to plan for an addition to our existing cafeteria at Erdenheim Elementary School. And as many people are aware, we've been down this road before, where we had significant community and staff input into a proposed expansion of the cafeteria, but unfortunately, because of severe water retention and damage and infiltration issues at Erdenheim, the board determined over the past couple of years that it was very, very imperative that we take care of those issues first before we plan for any type of expansion. Secondly, because of a number of other ongoing projects and fiscal concerns, it was felt that in order to accommodate the increasing enrollment and the size of the cafeteria, the type of project which had originally been proposed, even though it had certainly a number of merits, was really more than we felt the district needed to invest in that type of a project. So our solicitation effort in terms of inviting in other architects really focused on what can you do in order to not only streamline the project, but meet both our fiscal needs as well as our enrollment needs. Obviously, with the current 6 lunch periods that we have in place, we felt that was excessive. We felt that the crowded conditions and the placement of the tables was not conducive to a socialization atmosphere for the students. So these are all primary needs that the property committee, I believe, and Mr. Thorne had successfully communicated to the architects who came in. So as I said, Tom Gilbert from Gilbert Architects, the principal of that firm, is here this evening. Their firm was the firm that we have selected and are recommending to the full board for approval this evening in a motion. So we thought it would be nice to have Tom Gilbert here, along with his associate, to actually talk about some of the initial plans. And I do want to stress these are initial plans. This is not a final plan. Obviously, we would like to have more input, but we felt it was really a great place to start in terms of a recommendation for something that we felt could meet the needs that we have in mind and that we've communicated, and also would blend in very nicely with the existing structure that we have over at Erdenheim. So Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you and to Danielle, if you wouldn't mind introducing her as well.
Well, very good. Thank you very much. I'm Tom Gilbert, president of Gilbert Architects, and I'm supposed to use the mic. Is it on? Yep. Okay, cool. With me tonight is Danielle Hoffer, vice president and my partner. She's an educational planner, and we've been working together for, what, 17 years? 18 years. So it's been a while. The team that, actually we were just in the area today. Danielle had several meetings down in Cheltenham. We're in the process of finishing up a district-wide study that you're just about to embark on, so we know what those are like too. So our team that we suggested, myself and Danielle, Rod Fry, who's a senior project manager, he's been at the other meetings, not able to make it tonight. His son is being installed as a third-degree mason, and that only happens on rare occasions. Kelly Fox is our interior designer. Renewed Design Group would be site civil, more engineering is mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and Baker Ingram would be structural. And a little bit about us. I started Gilbert Architects in 1988. 100% of our work is K-12 throughout Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia. We've done over $2.1 billion worth of schools, so we've done quite a few. Facility studies, like you're talking about, 226, but 35 cafeteria renovation additions project. In fact, that number surprised me when we went through all the list of all the projects to see what we've done. Again, number of elementary schools additions, new and renovations, and 103 Plan-Con projects. And now I'm going to turn this over to Danny.
One of the best ways to get to know an architect is actually know our body of work. And we've worked in 11 school districts in Montgomery County, including the Western Montgomery CTC. It's equating to 44 projects in 44 projects altogether. And we thought, even driving around, maybe you've seen some of these projects. Like Tom said, we just were in Cheltenham Township. Glenside and Cheltenham are completed now. We have Wyncote Elementary under construction. That's going to be completed in August of this year. A point of interest on the first two elementary schools, we had no errors and omissions change orders on either of those projects, and we actually gave over $300,000 worth of credits back to the school district at the end of the projects. Very successful. In Colonial School District, we've done a variety of renovations and capital improvement projects in the school district. On the right-hand side, we did renovations to the library at Plymouth White Marsh High School, and we did a courtyard infill at Colonial Elementary School for the Media Center. In Upper Moreland Township School District, in back of the middle school on Orangeman's Road, we did the renovations to the K-2 primary center and add an addition for the 3-5 intermediate school. And if you ever drive up and down 309, we were the architect for the school district of Upper Dublin. We did the high school there. In fact, Dr. Rittenhouse was the principal at the time. When you're looking at cafeteria expansions, you're not only looking at increasing the capacity of the cafeteria, but also provide some opportunities to group areas of seating so that the students have a variety of areas to seat in the cafeteria. And this is an example of not actually a cafeteria expansion. We did a renovation and expansion to their culinary arts program at the CTC in Western Montgomery County. And this is the actual seating area for the restaurant.
So as we began this process, we started off with your existing conditions. So this is the footprint of the existing cafeteria with the tables as they were originally designed and laid out. 2,100 square feet, 12 tables with 12 seats per table, 144 seats or 14.6 square feet per student. So that's how you start off. Where you are now with your 6 lunch seatings, you're down to 9.7 square feet per student, and you've done a wonderful job of getting them all crammed in. And I was there with Mr. Thorne the one day, and we watched them coming in and out, and as they were going outside to play, they were coming out of the kitchen getting ready to eat. So we wanted to look at something that would be easy to construct, would be economical, would blend in and make sense with the existing building. And so we looked at expanding out front and also off to the side. And with that, we added a third exit, which, as I understand, when you have a fire drill and this hallway is just absolutely filled with students, it's tough for the students in the cafeteria to get out. So this provides a safety valve, which is a good thing. And we've now been able to open it up, provide some space between the tables so that everybody's not bumping in together, especially with the older students. So now we're back up to 13.3 square feet per student, 264 seats, which with your enrollment projections look like that would seem to work out pretty well. And of course, everybody wants to know what's it going to look like. So we did a rendering, and you have obviously this very interesting canopy, the angled canopy, as you can see dotted here. And so what we thought was to stay underneath that, but up against it, come out to the sidewalk down here by the entrance-exit door. This would be the new exit way from the cafeteria. Still provide room for the students to unload from the buses, but be able to make it into the building. And to do it in such a way that it matches the existing architecture, the types of windows, the fenestration, the brick. And again, this is a preliminary concept. We thought it might be nice to put the name back out there too, to identify the school. And obviously this is very preliminary, and as we go through this, we can develop it to whatever degree that you would like to. But most important, we thought that the interior really ought to be consistent, that the addition would be consistent with with the existing. This is actually an extension of the current exterior wall. This is the column that's round and outside the building right now, so we're bringing that inside. And we're taking the round off and we're making it look like the rest of it. But we're using the flooring material, the same type of vinyl, same colors, similar windows, although we probably have a different style on the sides. But again, we want to match. We want this to be seamless. We want this that we can do it quickly. We also want to address the acoustics because the existing cafeteria is very loud, too many hard surfaces, and so we're looking at the type of acoustical ceiling treatment to improve the noise coefficient ratio on that so it absorbs more sound, plus in the drywall bulkheads that exist, providing sound absorbing material on those and on some of the concrete block walls in addition. So we've got that in our budget to handle that as well. Schedule. A few hires tonight. Well, we've already started. My people are so excited. After we met the last time, you know, they're already planning. They've got consultants on board. They're trying to schedule meetings. They want to get the specifications going. They want to get the front ends to the solicitor so that they can be reviewed and get this thing going, because we've basically given ourselves 2 months to get the construction documents done. Take a month to bid the project April 17th, bring that to you April 21st, and then award the contracts for the contractors to start at the beginning of May. Your school year ends June 16th, and then use that summer to do the heavy excavation, build the slabs, get the steel up, get it under roof, so that by Labor Day, that's enclosed and can be finished during the fall semester. So our goal is to get this project done in 2015. So you had asked, would it be construction during the school year? Unfortunately, there'll be some, but we want to keep the cafeteria in full operation and not have that impact negatively on the cafeteria experience. And then as far as cost, we're looking at basically 1,650 square feet for this addition. We have the site work. We're going to tear up more sidewalks. We're going to put in additional storm drainage. Mr. Thorne showed me the communications cable right there. Obviously, Murphy is an optimist. It's right in the midst of where the addition's going to go. We want to see if we have to relocate it or if there's some other option that would be less expensive. But we put some money in for that. The acoustical treatment for the existing, design contingency. And so we're looking at a budget of somewhere between $650,000 and $850,000. And professional fees and soft costs are not included in that. That would be additional. So that's basically where we are. We appreciate you considering us. Again, this is very preliminary. Everybody wants to know, well, what can you do? And so we thought providing some images would be a benefit. But again, this is not the end product. We need lots of conversation to go on, as Dr. Hacker said, with your staff and administration to make sure we get all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So that's where we are, and we'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
On your schedule,
Yes.
it indicates start construction May 1. Can you elaborate a little bit about what that actually means?
Once you receive the bids, you would award them it would be an award subject to the contractors providing all the bonds and insurances and signing the contracts. Once that is all done and approved by the solicitor, then the contractors begin shop drawings, ordering materials. They don't show up with the backhoe on May 2nd. Most likely they probably won't show up until after school's out.
After school, right? That's what makes
You know, there may be people out there staking out, laying out, and taking measurements, but no, any real hard construction would be after school's out.
So two questions. With respect to the proposed interior rendering that you had shown us, it seems that those bulkheads that you were going to install some of that sound absorbing material
Yes.
is in the area of the existing cafeteria.
Not only the existing, but in the additions.
Right. So with respect to the project being completed, that area where the existing cafeteria is, will at least that portion of the interior be completed once school starts? Or will we lose more space in that cafeteria?
Well, you're not going to lose any space in the cafeteria.
Well, I mean, will the space not be useful?
No, that type of work could be done after hours, weekends, holidays. I don't see it happening that first summer. That its finishes and all the finishes would probably be done between the addition and the renovations at similar times. But again, those are details we're going to need to work out. But no, it's not going to impact. It's not going to take away your ability to use the cafeteria.
Okay, all right. My second question is, and I love the brightness of it, but with all of the windows on the exterior like that, I've been in that cafeteria the way it is right now, and it gets very, very hot with the sun coming into the windows where it is now. Could you elaborate on what the effect will be with those additional windows, both with heat and cold?
Well, this is the southwest side, and this is the west. This is the west side. We're going with smaller windows. There's been discussion as to visual security and whether or not these might be opaque panels instead of vision panels. It could be ballistic glass as well, but the idea is that instead of being floor-to-ceiling glass like they are now, that they would be smaller, so that would eliminate some of that. Same thing on the side here. We have smaller windows, and the only big window would be that corner. But again, it's subject to change or input. I think I've experienced the solar gain that you've talked about, and it is oppressive. So that needs to be addressed. The mechanical unit needs to be sized large enough to be able to handle that. We're looking at, the building is geothermal now. The engineer's preliminary concept is that you have sufficient well capacity to provide another geothermal heating cooling unit for the space and to make sure that it's large enough to take care of the solar gain. But again, our engineers haven't designed that yet. And so as they do, we'll be able to provide more specific input.
For the for that proposed exterior, if you can just refresh my memory, as it comes out, was there going to be any impact to the playground below? For your
No.
excavation, is it going to be a solid excavation down, like no pillars or stilts on that back end where it would come out at all? On the west wall, right? Where
On the west wall,
Yes, correct.
You know, they'll probably come out to about 10, 15 feet beyond it, but it should not impact the playground
And
equipment.
underneath of it, it's going to be a solid foundation.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That'll be a solid foundation. You know, we're really going to have to excavate out to the curb line, and then I think with that, to make sure that the sidewalk is properly sloped so the water flows away from the building. I know you've had an issue with that before. I also learned that you had a car that decided to visit through the curtain, the glass curtain. And so we talked to our structural engineer. We talked about it last week too, but the structural engineer suggested that we build at least the bottom 3 feet out of a reinforced masonry, called Ivany block. It's reinforced horizontally and vertically, and then it's all grouted together, so it literally is a solid wall, so that if the car did hit it, it would damage the brick, but it wouldn't go through, wouldn't be able to get inside the building. So again, these are all things that keep developing as we go along.
I just had a question, actually, more about the service area for the students. We're going to be having more students come through the cafeteria. Has there been any talk about the kitchen area and the service area, and as to whether we would need to increase or revamp that in some way in order to feed the students efficiently?
Well, when we met last week, that was brought up, Mr. King and Mr. Thorne, talking with who's your food service provider? We talked to them about, is there something that could be done? But again, we'll look at that as we go through.
Yes, just looking at the total construction budget, I just wanted to know what the professional fees and soft costs, what does that refer to? It says it's not included in the budget.
Right, what I showed you there was the construction cost.
Okay.
As far as the professional fees are concerned, I gave Mr. Thorne, Mr. King a proposal basically with a time and materials basis with an upset because small buildings are the hardest, and I think the hardest to figure out. But we've done so much work on this that we feel that we can do it very economically and save you lots of money. And to do that through the bidding process, and then depending upon the construction, again, to just do that on a T&M basis. We have, like I said, Windcoat's under construction in Cheltenham, and so we're down here on a regular basis anyway. So if we can coordinate with Mr. Thorne and save money that way. So we're trying to figure out how to save money.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question, how much of the front is lost in the addition? It doesn't show that in the illustration.
I think it's about 16 feet that it's going to come out from the existing wall.
So it'll go out beyond the sidewalk, or?
No, this is the existing curb, and this is the current point of the sidewalk. I think it's 8 or 10 feet in from the curb. So it's going to come out to that, but no further. We're not going to change the configuration of the parking. That might trigger land development, and then the whole schedule goes out the window. Again, we're trying to, instead of bringing it out this way further, we came out to the west side, again, to keep it simple and to be able to expedite it. So we're all excited about this. We're ready to get going.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
I think you better do your specs right away.
Aye, aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom and Danielle, thank you both very much for being here and for giving the board and the members of the community and our administrators who are here this evening an overview of some of the ideas that you've given us. We appreciate it very much. We've had a lot of conversations about this up to this point. There will be more as we hopefully get closer to a final rendering of what we believe is optimal for the space and for the conditions that you've outlined. So thank you very much. We appreciate your being here with us tonight.
Well, thank you. You're very welcome, and we're all excited, and we're ready to get going. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Administrative report?
First of all, I'd like to extend my best wishes to everyone for a very happy new year. Hopefully this will be a safe and healthy new year for everyone. And I'd like to take this opportunity to update everyone on the condition of Mrs. Bradley, the principal at Erdenheim Elementary School. I was fortunate enough this afternoon to be able to speak with her sister, who told me that Chris is awake. She had tubes removed, and she is fighting the nurses who want to give her pain medication, insisting that she's fine, which sounds like the Chris Bradley that we all know and love. So she is her feisty self there, anxious to get better quickly. She was up and sitting in a chair today. They're hoping to have her walking by tomorrow. So she seems to be making very, very steady progress, even though her surgery is only 1 day old. So she's doing very, very well. And her surgery went about as perfectly as could have been expected given the seriousness of it. So we all certainly wish Chris well. I'm hoping to be able to see her before the end of the week. And I know her heart is here with us. Her newly repaired heart is here with us. That being said, I'd like to take this opportunity. It's my pleasure to introduce to everyone Dr. Cheryl Malfi, who is serving as interim principal at Erdenheim. Cheryl, if you wouldn't mind standing. And Cheryl has had the opportunity to be over at Erdenheim since the beginning of last week. She presided over one of our concerts last week, so a good portion of the 4th and the 5th grade parents had the opportunity to see Cheryl. We have another concert scheduled for tomorrow evening, so hopefully, weather permitting, we'll be able to have that go on as and proceed as planned. But Cheryl, we welcome you. Cheryl has extensive experience not only as an elementary principal, having served for 11 years at Upper Dublin as an elementary principal at Jarretttown Elementary before retiring, but she also was coordinator of elementary education for 4 years over at Upper Dublin as well. And prior to that, she was also an elementary principal in Garnet Valley. So she has extensive experience. We feel that Erdenheim is in good hands, along with herself and Dr. McCarthy, keeping things running, very stable, very consistent. And so, Cheryl, we thank you for coming in to help us out. And I know that the staff is very happy to have someone with your experience leading the charge. And with that being said, I'm going to take over the microphone and the pointer. As the board members are aware, we have on our agenda for this evening, according to the state's timeline, we must release the preliminary budget to the public. So I'm going to do a brief presentation showing where we are as far as the budget is concerned at this point in time. Of course, I'm mindful of the fact that we just had another presentation, so I'm going to keep this one short. But as always, the one thing that is imperative to keep in mind is our mission statement. And in order to do all of the things in our mission statement to really develop our students as the learners and the citizens that we want them to be, it's absolutely essential that we have a budget that supports those goals. So the purpose of our budget, obviously, is to be able to achieve all of the educational goals that we've established, not only within each particular building, but of course district-wide. And among those goals are not only a quality educational and academic program, but as we all are very much aware, our students come to us with very significant social and emotional needs as well. And if they're not coming to us with those needs, it's certainly possible that they may develop those needs as they go through our organizational system. So we need to be attuned to that, constantly attentive to that, and obviously capable of helping to meet those needs. We also want and appreciate when our students are involved in a full array of extracurricular activities, whether it be athletics, areas in the arts. For example, we had a wonderful concert here last week at the high school with all of our student band and choral groups. I just mentioned the concerts that we had at the elementary level as well. So we want our students to engage very early at the elementary level and continue those activities as they go through school. We need to have, as we just discussed, not only safe and secure and well-maintained facilities, but also facilities which can adapt and which can handle our burgeoning student populations as they come through. And then finally, a topic of conversation at one of our meetings this morning with Dr. Atkinson, it's absolutely essential that we look ahead and plan for the initiatives that are either coming from the state or that we believe are important in order to ensure that we have a very well qualified and well-trained staff in many of the areas that I just mentioned. So our fiscal goal is always to try to look to the state as our guide. Pennsylvania, according to the state law, comes up with an annual, what we call Act 1 index, which the legislature has enacted, which essentially says that the budget cannot increase any more than a particular percentage, which is based on an array of factors and the economic growth of the state. This particular year, that budget level is at 1.9% over last year, and that increases or allows for an increase of only $716,359. And I say only because you'll see in a few moments that when you're talking about a significant budget that takes into account all of the needs of a multifaceted school district, that really is not a significant number. Where we are currently at this stage in the budgeting process is, as you can see, very significantly over that by more than $1 million. We are currently at a 4.74% increase, and one of the amazing things about preparing a preliminary budget and getting it out to the public and getting board approval for that preliminary budget, as we will seek in February, is it really doesn't mean anything. And by that, I mean it is preliminary in the sense that we have until June when we must pass a final budget and share that with the community, until we have to actually develop what our actual numbers will look like. And obviously, our goal here in our community is to ensure that the budget increases no more than what that Act 1 index figure is. If we can do better, we certainly try for that as well, but our goal is to always to try to at least achieve the Act 1 index, even though we are permitted to go higher. So as you can see, slightly over $1 million is the amount of money that we will have to work very hard to cut from our budget between now and the final proposed budget in June. So this gives you an indication of the budget process that we go through. Believe it or not, the school year has barely begun when in October we actually begin to look at the budgeting process for the following school year. So planning and trying to determine what our costs are a year ahead of time is a challenging subject for all of us. So the first stage of the process is to really build the department and school budget. So we actually start at the ground level. We look at what we believe our needs are going to be for the following school year. We try to look at historical spending. We gather new information such as our enrollment figures. How many students, for example, will be leaving Enfield first grade and coming into Erdenheim second grade? If it's more than what Erdenheim currently has in second grade, that means we're going to need more second grade materials for those incoming students. So we look at with a very fine detail at all of the needs within each particular school and within each particular department, even down, for example, to the cleaning supplies used in facilities. Next, we plan for staffing. We look at retirements, even though we don't necessarily get that information until sometime in the early spring. But we know that when we have staff members retiring, we generally can replace them with people at a lower expense for the district. We look at whether or not we're going to be eliminating any programs, although we hope that's certainly not the case. Or we look at expansions or additions. So when people say, gee, can you add another foreign language? It's not quite as simple. We have to look at what is that cost? What is that going to entail? So every time a decision is made around expanding a program, we need to look at the concurrent costs. Again, we look at enrollment figures. Which grades are going to balloon and have more classes? That's going to mean more textbooks, more supplies and materials at that grade level. In some cases, even chairs and desks for students, as well as contractual salaries. What is it we are obligated to increase our salaries for, whether it's at the professional staff level, the administrative level, or even our instructional aides, as an example. We also begin to compile all of our revenue figures, and I'll show you that in a second, where our revenue comes from. Remember, a budget is comprised of revenue, the incoming dollars, as well as the outgoing dollars, our expenditures. And that's where we have to determine what kinds of unusual costs are we going to have to count on this year that we need to consider as we put the budget together. So as you can see, these are the three revenue sources that we have for the school district of Springfield Township. And right now, this is where our estimated revenue sources are coming from. As you can see, the bulk of the money has to come locally, and the bulk of that local money is from real estate taxes. We get a very, very small percentage of our revenue dollars, unfortunately, from the state, and even less from the federal government. And most of the federal money is in the form of grant money. Many people have been asking, now that a new governor is in place, do we anticipate any increase in the state revenue? And unfortunately, the answer is no. As everyone has been reading in the newspapers, Governor Wolf has inherited over $1 billion in deficit in state government, and it's early. It's very soon to enact any real changes in terms of allocations of dollars. As a matter of fact, through state legislative acts, he has more time than usual actually to develop a budget this year, given the lack of familiarity with it. So we do not anticipate any increase in state dollars this year. Again, here is a breakdown of our revenue sources and what our total revenue for the school district is, showing the state, the federal, and the local, and what comprises each of those areas. The BES at the top, I said BES, is our basic education subsidy. That is primarily the bulk of our money coming from the state, along with our special ed subsidy. And then our retirement subsidy is what offsets it, which comes really from our salary figures. That's our retirement money that is contributed back to the district. And then, of course, those people in the homestead rebate program will get money from gambling funds, and that money is distributed and helps to offset the actual tax bill. The federal dollars, as I said, comes primarily from grant programs, and of course the local money, in addition to property taxes, which, as I said, comprises the majority of the amount. We also have in place an earned income tax, and then we do collect some revenue from delinquent taxes. There are fees assessed when people pay their taxes late. All of that combines to get the grand total. In this case, we have a little over $52 million in revenue. So if you recall back to that earlier slide, when I said we're only allowed a $716,000 increase according to the Act 1 guidelines, when you realize that the total revenue in the budget that we are operating off is a little over $52 million, you see that $700,000 doesn't really sound like such a big number after all. Where does the money go? As you can see, and this is a comparison of how costs have increased over the years, what you are seeing is a comparison of the last 3 years, including what is projected, sorry, not the last 2 years, plus what is projected for next year up here, and the percent of the budget. And you'll be able to see this more clearly on the next slide, but as I've often discussed, the majority of the money goes towards salaries and benefits. We are a people business. We are a human capital business. What we spend our money on has to be the quality individuals that we hire to work with our children. And that is not only professional staff, that also includes our support staff, it includes our maintenance workers, it includes our administrative staff. Everyone who is employed by the district is in Code 100 and Code 200, a little over 71% of where the money goes. In case you're wondering what the red and the green figures look like, the green figures refer to a decrease in this column, the percent of the budget compared to the percent of the budget that was spent in that area last year. So for example, even though the salaries for this year contractually are higher than they were last year, in terms of the percentage of the budget this year, they're actually slightly less. There are only 2 areas where percentage-wise, the amount being expended in that particular area is more than the percentage of the budget that it was last year. And what that shows you very clearly is we are working very, very hard to decrease the amount of spending in these areas. So what we can control, we are very clearly trying to control in terms of the percent of the total budget. So these are where some of the significant increases are that we are finding. In the equipment line item, we are jumping by a fairly significant amount, as you can see. And one of the reasons is money that we have set aside in that line item for the purchase of new school buses. Our fleet of buses is aging. And there comes a point when we must, by law, retire certain buses in the fleet because of safety issues and because they've actually outpaced their longevity. So it's absolutely essential that we begin to put money aside every single year to continue to rotate the fleet, bring in new buses, take out the old, so that our students are traveling to and from school and to and from their activities in a safe manner. The other area this year, that's a new expense, supplies. And the reason that the supplies money has gone up, even though not significantly, is we are anticipating 2 new classrooms as a result of projected enrollments. One will be in Enfield in the kindergarten class, the other will be in Erdenheim in their 4th grade class. And as I mentioned before, in order to supply those classrooms, not only with teachers, but also with the necessary supplies that they need, we had to increase this line item as well. And then finally, the other really significant increase that everyone is talking about is in the benefits area, and this is the cost of PSERS, the contributions to the retirement system, which are quite significant. This year we increased from a little bit over 20% to over 21% of our entire salary. And so it's a fairly significant increase in terms of the dollars that we are paying. So here again shows you what our budgetary expenses look like, and if you can see the purple and the blue, those are our salaries and benefits. So obviously they take up almost 3/4 of the pie, almost 3/4 of our budget just going towards salary and benefits. And as you can see, even though we have a little bit of control over all the other slices of the pie, put them all together, they're not that significant. So a lot of the major cost factors, and PSERS certainly is one of them, fall into the area of salaries and benefits, which are unfortunately out of our control. So there's the PSERS number, increasing by approximately $1.3 million. And remember, going back to that figure that I told you about before, the Act 1 index allows us to increase the budget by $716,000. So right there, PSERS takes up almost twice that. We have to find a way to offset just the PSERS increase. We have a health care increase of about $64,000 added into that. Again, we have the allocation in there for the aging bus fleet. And then, of course, we also have new staffing. I talked before about new supplies, but we need teachers to staff those new classrooms. So we have 2 new teachers budgeted into that total. Also included in that $688,000 is replacing some of our contracted employees in order to meet IRS guidelines. What we have discovered is that we have a number of employees who provide us with contracted services such as speech and language, OT, PT, and so forth. And IRS guidelines require us to now hire them and include them as part of our salaried staff members. So even though we get money back that we will now no longer have to pay out for their contracts, they become our employees. We end up having to pay them salary and benefits. So we have a little bit of an offset, but yet it also costs us a little bit more money as well. The other area where we actually have a savings is we took a look very carefully at our facilities budget. We looked at how much we were spending to do a lot of our HVAC repairs. We found a fairly significant amount of dollars. So our intent is to try to hire someone who, even though he will become an employee, that will offset a much more significant rate that we have been paying for contracted services in the area of maintenance of facilities. So we anticipate a savings of approximately $38,000. So when we look at all these numbers, plus the salary of the 2 teachers that we anticipate hiring, we're anticipating approximately $688,000 in that area. And again, this is not including any savings that might be generated by retirements. As of today, we have not gotten word officially of any retirements. So this is really what the budget represents for us. I always like to say that it's a balance between wants and needs, just like it is in each one of our households. We all want many, many nice things, and we try to save and put money away for not only a rainy day when things break down that were anticipated, but also to be able to afford vacations and other things that we don't necessarily have to have, but that we'd like to have. And it's certainly no different in a school district. So the preliminary budget, as I said, we're at quite a high range at this point, but the goal will be between now and June to really sharpen the pencils. Once we get more information from the state and we start getting more precise figures between now and May, hopefully we'll be able to do more in terms of bringing the budget down to a figure that is acceptable not only to the board but to the community as well. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dave and Bill.
Ms. Gretchen. Nancy, will this go up on the website for the community to see?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Hacker, for your thorough presentation. Very informative, as always. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot for us to get our heads around, but you do a really good job presenting to us. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. There are none. New business. Personnel, personnel attachment, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the following personnel as presented in the attachment: certificated personnel, support personnel, temporary personnel, extra pay for extra responsibilities, conference workshop attendance. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Sales. Mr. Lapidus. Mr. Richardson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Ms. Schultz. Aye. Dr. Perry-Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Sylvanus.
Aye. Number 2, substitute elementary principal, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the appointment of Dr. Cheryl Malfi and the contract that has established the salary and fringe benefits for the position of substitute elementary principal. Is there a motion? Second? Any questions?
Mr. Sales. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Mr. Richardson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Ms. Schultz.
Aye.
Dr. Perry-Hudson.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor. Aye. Mrs. Sylvanus.
Aye. Congratulations, Dr. Malfi. Number 3, 2015-2016 calendar. The recommended motion, the Board of School Directors approves the 2015-2016 calendar as per attached, attachment O. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. Any questions or comments?
Ms. Casalis. Mr. Lapis. Mr. Richardson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Ms. Schultz.
Aye.
Dr. Parakowski. Mr. Taylor. Mrs. Kenseth.
Aye. Number 4, confidential settlement and release. Recommended motion, the Board of School Directors approves the confidential settlement and release for student 201-501-20-01 for school years 2014-15 and 2015-16, and ESY for the summers of 2015 and 2016. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Ms. Casalis. Mr. Lapis. Mr. Richardson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Ms. Schultz. Dr. Parakowski. Mr. Taylor. Mrs. Kenseth.
Aye. Number 5, Gilbert Architects. Recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves Gilbert Architects, Inc. to provide all architectural and engineering services associated with the Erdenheim Cafeteria Expansion Project as recommended by the Property Committee. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Just a brief question. In terms of a range of what this is going to cost, I see the letter of the fee proposal. So it's not anticipated to exceed the $53,000 proposed.
For the professional,
Well, what we're voting on.
we're voting on the whole project, so, yeah, approving them,
To do the whole project.
the whole project.
Right.
We saw the preliminary construction numbers, and then these numbers were the preliminary for the professional services.
Okay. All right.
But just to clarify, is it possible that the amount of the fees could go beyond what's in the letter? It's always possible, depending upon what services they actually provide, but they're experienced enough to know generally what that range is that's appropriate, given what we've already discussed with them.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if we were voting preliminarily on them, putting together more detailed specs, or if we were voting on the entire awarding of the project.
We are hiring them as the architect for the project, but they're not done in terms of the specs.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be further conversations with them about the actual design and the budget. We did discuss in the property committee that we did really want to kind of pin them down to the number, kind of keep it on the lower end than their higher end, and how that might affect what they presented in terms of the design. So we're just really getting started. But it is the goal of the property committee to try to keep the cost down as much as possible.
I just wanted clarification on what exactly we were voting on. The whole thing, or just something specific?
Anything else? Okay.
Ms. Casalis. Mr. Lapis. Mr. Richardson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Ms. Schultz. Dr. Parakowski. Mr. Taylor. Mrs. Kenseth.
Aye. Number 6, approval of the 2015-2016 Eastern Center budget. The recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the resolution for the 2015-2016 general operating budget between Eastern Center for Arts and Technology and the School District of Springfield Township. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
Ms. Casalis. Mr. Lapis. Mr. Richardson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Ms. Schultz. Dr. Parakowski. Mr. Taylor. Mrs. Kenseth.
Aye. Number 7, approval of the 2015-2016 general operating budgets for Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. The recommended motion, the Board of School Directors approves the 2015-2016 MCIU general operating budgets as follows. A, administrative services budget. B, curriculum, instruction, and professional development services budget. C, legislative services and grant development budget. D, technology and information services budget. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Ms. Casalis. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Mr. Richardson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield. Aye. Ms. Schultz.
Aye.
Dr. Karatowski.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor. Aye. Ms. Lizinski.
Aye. Number 9, authorization to release preliminary 2015-2016 budget. Oh, I'm sorry. Number 8, authorization to work with PFM on refunding Series AA of 2009 and Series A of 2010. The recommended motion. The Board of School Directors authorizes the administration to work with Public Financial Management, Inc. as financial advisor, Fox Rothschild LLP as bond counsel, and the local solicitor for the purpose of current refunding the general obligation bonds, Series AA of 2009 and Series A of 2010, via a parallel track approach between a bank loan RFP and a bond issue, with a recommendation to utilize the approach that produces the best economic benefit to the district, with a minimum net savings target of 3%.
May I just interject? The bottom line of all of the gobbledygook is that we anticipate well above 3% and a savings through this refunding of in excess of $450,000. So we are hoping for a little bit higher than that, but as you'll see in the last line where it says a minimum net savings of 3%, we're actually anticipating closer to 5%. So this refinancing is actually a very, very positive thing in terms of money that can be applied back towards our bond indebtedness over time.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Is this the one we discussed in, not the last finance meeting, but the one before?
Ms. Casalis. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Mr. Richardson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Ms. Schultz.
Aye.
Dr. Karatowski.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor. Aye. Ms. Lizinski.
Aye. Now we're on number 9. Authorization to release preliminary 2015-2016 budget. The recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the Finance Committee's recommendation to release the 2015-2016 preliminary general operating budget. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Ms. Casalis. Aye. Mr. Lapidus. Aye. Mr. Richardson. Aye. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Ms. Schultz.
Aye.
Dr. Karatowski.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor. Aye. Ms. Lizinski.
Aye. Number 10, approve the appointment of Ken Bradley Esquire as Deputy Tax Collector. Recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the appointment of Mr. Kenneth Bradley to act as Deputy Tax Collector in accordance with Act 164 of 2014, changes to tax collector procedures, who shall collect and settle taxes during any incapacitation of the tax collector. All right. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Isn't Bonnie handling this, or?
She's not the deputy. She's deputy.
Oh, he reports to her.
Correct.
If need be.
If, no, it's like the runner-up in the Mr.
Right, that's exactly what it's for.
She should have started with that.
I'll reverse that.
Mr. King?
Ms. Casalis. Mr. Lapis. Mr. Richardson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Ms. Schultz.
Aye.
Dr. Terratescu.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Number 11, audit report, year-end, 6/30/14. Recommended motion. The Finance Committee recommends the Board of School Directors accept the audit report for year-end, June 30th, 2014, as prepared by Barbicane Thornton and Company, LLP, for the School District of Springfield Township. Is there a motion? Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Mr. King?
Ms. Casalis. Mr. Lapis. Mr. Richardson.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Ms. Schultz.
Aye.
Dr. Terratescu.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? All right, future meeting dates. School board meeting, Tuesday, February 17th, 2015, 7 p.m., Freeze Memorial Lobby. Interim board meeting, Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015, 7 p.m., Freeze Memorial Lobby. Board committees, Academic Affairs, Monday, January 26th, 2015, 5:30 p.m., Administration Building.
Just one additional reminder for members of the board's negotiating team with the support staff. We will be meeting on Thursday at 5:30 in the boardroom.
Thanks, everyone, for coming out tonight. Have a good night.